الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وبعد. A very good afternoon to all respected scholars, esteemed patrons, advisory members, colleagues, students, and distinguished participants for joining us today from different parts of the world. On behalf of Huma Civilizational Dialogue and Harmony Foundation, it's my great pleasure to warmly welcome you to today's online lecture on how civilizational dialogue looks like for a Vicegerent, the Istikhlaf paradigm and its global implications. This session will be presided by Prof. Dr. Mustafa Sadiq, a prominent Bosnian Islamic scholar and public intellectual who served as the Grand Mufti, Rais al-Ulama of Bosnia and Herzegovina from 1993 to 2012. So we shall proceed with today's program as scheduled, inshallah. I hope Professor Mustafa Sadiq already joined us. So with his permission, in this session, we are honored to have an esteemed panel of scholars and intellectuals, our distinguished speakers and panelists today, including our keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Abdel Aziz Berghout, Professor and former Dean from Istikhlaf, Malaysia, and Professor Dr. Mustafa Sadiq. Further, we are honored to have our esteemed advisory members whose presence is greatly enriched this program. So, Huma Civilizational Dialogue is committed to fostering meaningful dialogue, intellectual exchange, and peaceful coexistence across civilizations, cultures, and faith traditions. Today's program reflects this ongoing commitment to engage in history and contemporary challenges through a civilizational perspective. So before we proceed, I kindly request all the participants to keep their microphones muted during the session. Participants are welcome to post their questions in the chat box, which will be taken during the Q&A segment. So with the permission of our chair, it's now my honor to invite our president to deliver a welcoming address, Professor Hamidullah Marazi, also known as Hamid Nasib Rafi Abadi, a scholar of Islamic philosophy and religious studies, civilizational thought with 3 decades of academic and research experience. His main work on Islamic philosophy, knowledge integration, Islamic research methodology. He has served as Director and Dean of Social Sciences at University of Kashmir, Central University of Kashmir, Head of Religious Studies, and recently the visiting professor of Ali University, Kolkata. So Professor Marazi is a prolific author who has written more than 65 books in Islamic philosophy, epistemology, science, and religion. So briefly, I would not take more time. I would like to invite Professor Marazi Saab. Professor Marazi Saab, you're welcome.
First of all, I welcome Professor Mustafa Sadiq, who is one of our patrons and also one of our advisors and has been always guiding us in different capacities. Then I welcome Professor Abdel Aziz Berghout, Datuk, who has been our mentor and guide for all these years. And we have been always inspired by his great leadership and by his thought. And we also are very thankful to Professor Sharmista Chatterjee, former Dean, School of Languages and Humanities, Alia University, Calcutta. And we are also thankful to all other dignitaries and participants who have joined us today. Before just requesting Professor Abdel Aziz Berghout to deliver his speech on this very important and inspiring subject, I would just like to say a few words. The question before us is not merely about dialogue between civilizations. It is about the moral foundation upon which such dialogue stands. In the Islamic intellectual tradition, civilizational dialogue is deeply rooted in the Quranic concept of Istikhlaf al-Ard, humanity's vicegerency on earth. The Quran declares, indeed, I will place upon the earth a Khalifa. This profound verse establishes a defining principle of human existence. Humanity is not the absolute master of the earth, nor an accidental presence upon it. Rather, it is entrusted with stewardship. A human being is a trustee, accountable, responsible, and morally answerable. Vigilancy implies responsibility in multiple dimensions: moral responsibility to uphold justice, social responsibility to ensure equity, and dignity, ecological responsibility to protect the environment, and civilizational responsibility to cultivate harmony rather than conflict. The Quran repeatedly warns against corruption on earth, fasad fil ard, and condemns those who spread disorder while claiming reform. Chapter 2, verse 11. Thus, the misuse of power, the exploitation of peoples, and the destruction of societies are not merely failures, they represent a betrayal of the trust of Istikhlaf. Within this framework, diversity is not a threat, it is divinely intended. The Quran states, quote, "O mankind, we created you from a male and a female, and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know one another." Chapter 49, verse 13. The purpose of diversity is ta'aruf, mutual recognition, and constructive engagement. Plurality is not meant for domination, but for understanding. Hence, civilizational dialogue emerges, not as a diplomatic convenience, but as an ethical necessity. If humanity collectively shares the trust of stewardship, then civilizations cannot isolate themselves in arrogance, not engage one another in perpetual hostility, which is the condition in nowadays world. Dialogue becomes a moral expression of vigilancy. The Quran instructs, invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and good counsel. Wisdom, hikmah, implies depth, balance, and sincerity. Dialogue must therefore be principled, yet respectful, confident, yet humble. In much of modern discourse, we hear about a clash of civilization. Such narratives assume that difference inevitably leads to conflict. The Quranic paradigm offers an alternative vision: convergence through ethical engagement. Civilizations are not rivals competing for supremacy. They are partners sharing responsibility for the moral future of humanity. When dialogue is grounded in Istikhlaf, several global implications follow. First, it nurtures peace building. Conflict is no longer seen as destiny, but as failure of stewardship. Second, it strengthens social justice, recognizing every human being as part of the divine trust, affirms their inherent dignity. Third, it promotes environmental responsibility. The earth is not property to exploit, but an amana, a trust to preserve. Fourth, it encourages interfaith cooperation, shared moral concerns. Poverty, inequality, violence, climate crisis demand collaborative engagement across civilizations. Thus, civilizational dialogue in the Islamic paradigm is not weakness, it is moral maturity. It is not compromise of identity, but fulfillment of responsibility. To reject dialogue is to reject vigilancy. Engage with sincerity and wisdom is to honor the divine trust placed upon humanity. In conclusion, Istikhlaf, if fil ard, provides a convergent ethical foundation for civilizational dialogue. It calls us to move beyond narratives of clash toward a vision of shared stewardship. The earth belongs to Allah. Humanity is entrusted with its care. Dialogue, therefore, becomes an act of responsibility and affirmation that our differences can coexist within justice, dignity, and shared flourishing. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you so much, Professor Malazi Sahab, for giving the vote of thanks to our esteemed guests and for enlightening us about the civilizational dialogue in contemporary scenario. So now we proceed to the keynote lecture, the central intellectual part of our today's program. So we will have the brief introduction about our guest speaker, Professor Dr. Abdel Aziz Berghout, who is an eminent professor of Islamic Studies and Civilization at the Kulliyah of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences, IAUM, Malaysia, with over 20 years of experience in teaching, research, and academic leadership. He has taught diverse courses in Islamic civilization, research methodology, Islamic worldview, philosophy, Quran and Sunnah studies, and contemporary Islamic thought. A prolific scholar who has published more than 50 Scopus Index and highly indexed journal articles, a dozen of books on civilizational history, education, social change, and strategic development. He has key administrative positions at IIUM, including a former dean and deputy director in several portfolios, and currently serves as a deputy director in internationalization, industry, and community relations, and active editor, consultant, and international keynote speaker. So we deeply honored to have with us today Professor Berghout. I now invite Professor Abdelaziz Berghout to deliver a keynote lecture on how civilizational dialogue looks like for a Vicegerent, the Istikhlaf paradigm, and its global implications. Professor Berghout, you're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Am I audible, brother?
Yes, sir. You are, sir. Yes, sir, audible.
Is the screen okay?
Yes,
okay,
we can see it.
Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Dear professors, doctors, researchers, the academicians in the university, Professor Dr. Hamid Marazi, and all the team and the organizers of this very important lecture today, and also my colleague, Professor Mustafa, who is, I think, joining us soon. I would like to thank you all for the invitation and for organizing such an important event today, talking about one of the I can say, one of the most important topics of our time today. Even though the concept of the dialogue and civilizational dialogue raised by great philosophers and scholars before in the history of humanity, starting from Greek Roman civilization, then Islamic civilization, Indian civilization, Chinese civilizations. And I believe and trust we are all aware that all religions, cultures, civilizations in the history of humanity had in some way or another way dealt with this question of dialogue, interaction, communication, cooperation between or among cultures, civilizations, people. And I'm very glad that Professor Hamid Marazi with the center, the Homa Center, is advancing or are advancing this cause of civilizational dialogue in a time where humanity and our human civilization is really facing, I can say, a very complex situation currently. At the present time when I'm speaking, our humanity, our civilization is in the brink of wars and the brink of conflicts. And many things are happening. This is why raising and revisiting and talking about civilizational dialogue, cultural dialogue, interfaith, interreligious dialogue is a must. It's not a kind of a luxury. It's not something that we can talk about it just for the sake of protocol or diplomacy, but it becomes and it will become the essence of our existence and continuity as a human race, as people, as civilization, as religions that existed for long, long time. So, brothers and sisters, our context today is very complex, very sensitive, and look like humanity and human global civilization as a whole is at the crossroads. There is fragmentation, polarization. There are many narratives that split humanity, split our religions. But on the other side, we can say there are narratives that are trying to bring people together, to rediscover the human being, to rediscover humanity so that we can continue and sustain our civilizational existence in this world. So we have also in this complex situation some kind of erosion of morality and ethics, to the extent that sometimes we engage into conflicts that lead to the death of people, to the killing of people, to the marginalization of societies, communities, people. And this is really something that needs to strike our mind. And we need to think about it, why we are still at this level of intellectual maturity and civilizational development and scientific, technological development, all these sophisticated things that we have achieved as a human race is wonderful. But when you look at the other side of the story and the coin, you see how some of our actions and works and our activities lead to dismantling humanity, lead to unethical actions and activities that cause harm to humans wherever they are. We notice in our complex context today, there is a kind of a weakening of the institutions, global institutions being weakened to advance the cause of humanity, sustainability, peace, civilizational dialogue. And I think I don't need to give you examples because you are living these things on a daily basis. Also, we have some kind of a deficit in the dialogue, the civilizational dialogue. I talk about not the activities, the programs that we do everywhere, from the United Nations to the UNESCO to all countries in the world are doing some activities and programs that advance this cause of dialogue. But I'm worried that many of these things that we do sometimes are superficial, sometimes are for protocol things, sometimes are for diplomacy things. What humanity needs today is something that is real, that is sincere, that is deep in our inner psychic as human beings, brothers and sisters. Therefore, the main question that we need to raise together here and everywhere in the world is civilizational dialogue merely a tool for crisis management, conflict management, bringing people together just for diplomacy, a complementary protocol-based activity, a last resort after conflicts began and people start dying and people start becoming poor and disrespected, then we start talking about it. Is it a conversation between separate, competing, conflicting civilization that they want to colonize each other, they want to invade each other? Or it is something fundamental that is the essence of our existence as humans on Earth? We must ask ourselves this critical question: are we simply trying to put band-aids on a deep wound of humanity, or is there a way to reframe the very nature of our engagement to move from a defensive, conflicting ideologies and perspectives and worldviews to purposeful, engaging, embracing, bringing together people? So In this context, I'm introducing to you this Istikhlaf-based civilization initiative of dialogue. And I think Professor Marazi has already given a very good introduction to how Islam articulates this concept of vicegerency, of the definition and identity of the human being. So, brothers and sisters, when we talk about civilizational dialogue or human dialogue or cultural dialogue from the perspective of istikhlaf or vicegerency or stewardship, it's very different when we talk about it from a materialistic, positivistic, rationalistic, modernistic, and postmodernistic perspective of the human being. In this context of vicegerency, stewardship, we talk about the human being as an honored, as a sacred, as a respected human being in his soul, in his soul, in his mind, in his spirit, in his innate human nature, in his body, in his character. This human being, whether he is a Muslim or Indian or Buddhist or Confucianist or whomsoever, any human being who has a soul, who is breathing and has a soul, he is a vicegerent created by God. Created by God and given all these faculties and potentials of mind, soul, heart, spirit, fitra, senses. We are all the same when it comes to this concept of vicegerent on earth. We are all created by God and given all these things and all these faculties. So this paradigm, this model or approach of vicegerency to the human being makes all human beings are vicegerent of God, are honored, respected creatures of God who got all the potentials, the abilities, the competencies to become great leaders, great people, great fathers, great mothers, great professions, great families, great societies. What makes us different, brothers and sisters, is our worldview, is our religion, is our cultural orientation. But when we are created by God in a raw creation, we are all the same brothers and sisters. If you see these verses of the Quran in front of you here, these verses of the Quran are applied to all people in the world. But later on, it is their worldview, it is their culture, it is their political orientation and social orientation that makes them have this color or that color. So, brothers and sisters, from the vicegerential perspective of our creation as humans, we are all created as Khalifa on earth. God said in the Quran, Allah, the Creator, spoke to the angels and He said that He will be placing a Khalifa, a vicegerent, a human being on earth. That human being supposed to do certain functions, certain works, and this is why we are all Khalifa. It's not that Muslims are the only Khalifa on earth. It is every and each single human being that who is created by God, he supposes to be, he is by nature, by fitra, by default of creation, is a vicegerent on earth. But it's later on his religion or worldview that makes him a Khalifa or a vicegerent who abides by the commandments of God or who goes against it. And God granted freedom of religion, granted the will to people to choose their way of life. And they take their responsibility and they take their accountability. Number two here, as human beings, as Khalifa, as Vicegerent on earth, we are created for great purposes. One of the great purposes of the creation of the human being is not to kill one another, is not to colonize one another, is not to destroy one another. But God says in the Quran, I have created you from a single pair of male and female and made you into tribes and nations and people so that you may know one another. The most honored of you in the sight of God is the pious one, is the one who does good, is the one who makes good things. So this is number 2 verse, which talks about this vicegerent and articulating the vicegerental or vicegerential paradigm or model of human interaction or human dialogue. Number 3, the model of vicegerency, when it speaks about human communication, human interaction, human cooperation, human dialogue, it focuses on dialogue with wisdom, with good ways, with the best model. And even when you argue, even when you go for mujadala or strong arguments, strong differences, you have to do it with the best of the manner, because you have a mind, you have a reason. You don't resort to killing, to destroying, to erasing your other adversary from the face of the earth. Number 4, the human cooperation in this model of vicegerency is for ta'awun, for cooperating, for finding common grounds, for finding ways to cooperate and exchange your wisdom, your wealth, your expertise, your mind with other people. It's also mentioned in this vicegerental worldview that always the Quran talks about come to common human ground. We know that we are, as humans, differing in everything. We differ in our colors, in our languages, in our worldview. These differences are in our human nature. We don't need to make all people cultures unified, uniform. No, they are created to differ. And that's the beauty of the Islamic perspective, the beauty of the sign of God of being different, so that we see how we bring people together. We see how we translate our wisdom into real context of living together. The other verse that is one of the pillars of this vicegerental paradigm in dealing with dialogue is that God says we have honored all the people of Adam. All honored. The other verse says, whomsoever kills a human nafs, a human being, is like killing all humanity. And any person or whomsoever saves a nafs or a human being is like saving all humanity. In this context, brothers and sisters, we are trying to approach this concept of Istikhlaf-based civilizational dialogue. So, in this model, we are talking about Istikhlaf, which is vicegerency. You are a vicegerent on earth. You have a responsibility. You have an amana. You have a job. You have a brain, a mind, a soul, a heart, and you have all the potentials to translate your worldview into a real human context, civilization, family, economy, technology, science. So, based on this perspective, as a vicegerent on earth, you are here to cultivate civilization, to cultivate souls and cultures and hearts. You are here to build balanced human civilization. So your role as Khalifa on earth, brothers and sisters, is summarized here as a vicegerent on earth. Whatever is your worldview, your culture, you're supposed to worship God, number 1. Number two, to populate the earth by building a balanced civilization, Umran, that requires our wisdom and our mind. You are here to do the ta'aruf. Ta'aruf means knowing one another, means ta'aruf. One of the means of doing ta'aruf is having dialogue, having communication, having tawasul. So knowing one another or ta'aruf is not a luxury, is your objective. One of the objectives of your creation is to do ta'aruf. Why we do ta'aruf? Because we are different in our worldview, in our religion. Then your job as a vicegerent of God is to restore universal justice, is to establish peace, is to establish equality, is to establish brotherhood, establish unity, is to establish care among humans on earth. That's why the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to say, the best of you to humanity is those who serve, who care for humanity. The best of you to your family is those who care for them and care for other people. So one of our objectives and duties as vicegerent is to disseminate our wisdom. And we cannot disseminate our wisdom if we are killing one another, if we are differing for the sake of differing, we are conflicting for the sake of conflicting. We are, for example, that's not the way of wise vicegerent on earth. So based on this understanding, brothers and sisters, for us to advance this model of vicegerent-based civilizational dialogue, we need really to understand how in this vicegerential model, peaceful coexistence is very important. Interfaith harmony is very important. Exchange, cultural, social, economic exchange is very important. Dialogue is very important, brothers and sisters. This is why I should not spend a lot of time to convince you that civilizational dialogue is a must. And it's happening since the beginning of humanity. But unfortunately, it happens in the history of humanity that some types of dialogue leads to conflicts, to killing, to wars, to colonization. The vicegerental model of dialogue leans towards bringing people together, making dialogue as a way of solving problems and bringing people together and not otherwise. So this concept of civilizational dialogue, when we look at it from vicegerental perspective, this concept of vicegerency helps us see dialogue as the essence of our existence, actually. When Islam, for example, talks about da'wah or tabligh or explaining the message to other people, it's actually a form of dialogue. When Islam speaks about telling people your side of the story, of the truth, that's your side of the truth. But there are many other perspectives of that truth. So Islam says you have your religion, we have our religion. But the best way for us to explain ourselves is to do dialogue and ta'aruf and explain with evidence our truths, our worldviews, and try to come to common words. And from there, we move forward in populating the world. But unfortunately, when you see what happened in the 2 world wars and after that, and what's happening today, you see that there is a lot of tension, a lot of conflicts based on worldviews which are not really vicegerential as I am trying to explain them. They are more towards centered interests, centered ideologies, looking at the rest of the world as something that is subject to our colonization or whatever thing. These perspectives create what we call the anti-civilizational dialogue. So, brothers and sisters, Having said all of this, this vision of Vicegerent based civilizational dialogue speaks about Istikhlaf intelligence, means as a Khalifa on earth, by your own innate intelligence, you should, and fitra, you should understand that you are not here to kill people. You are not here to cause harm to people. You are here to discover the sign of God, the laws of God, the resources that God has given. You are here to build a civilization, to show your creativity and innovation. So your istikhlaf intelligence should lead you that dialogue is your best way to discern and discover your potentials, your abilities, to see the wisdom in other people, to see the creativity in other people should become your aim, your objective. Istikhlaf diplomacy. From this model, we are talking about, usually in the UNESCO and the United Nations, we talk about civilizational diplomacy. Here, I'm talking about istikhlaf diplomacy as actually the foundation of civilizational diplomacy. You can talk civilizational diplomacy or cultural diplomacy means that it's not only political diplomacy, it's not only political means, it is social means, cultural means, civilizational means. When arts, poetry, music, dress, fashion, society, people, gatherings become your way of civilizational dialogue. It's not only when there is a conflict and feeling we start talking about, let's do dialogue to solve the problem. No, it is your istikhlaf as a human being, as a khalifa. You have that istikhlaf diplomacy. Istikhlaf tarbiyah, for us to enhance and develop and nurture the istikhlaf civilizational mind, we need to have this istikhlaf tarbiyah, istikhlaf education. We cultivate the people from the school, from the family, from the society, from the media, from early days that they are vicegerent, that they are here to show their creativity, but in the best forms and ways. We have also to talk about the Istikhlaf network. Istikhlaf network here, or social relationship network. We cannot do great dialogue for the benefit of humanity if we don't have good social relationships among Muslims, non-Muslims, about Buddhists, about Hindus, about all types of religions, because we are created like that. We are created like that. So we don't need to go and erase our fitra, our creation. We are different by default. So let's show our creativity and our great minds by bringing those common foundations, common values, common things that help us to work. So, brothers and sisters, based on this, as I mentioned in the title, when we talk about, I'm talking about vicegerency or istikhlaf based paradigm of civilizational dialogue. This istikhlaf paradigm of civilizational dialogue is based on certain pillars, certain principles. What I'm showing to you today is just part of a book that I'm preparing to publish in this area of the Istikhlaf paradigm for not only civilizational dialogue, but building human civilization in the age of complexity. So these are seven aspects of that model that helps us to approach civilizational dialogue in a complex world like our world today. Number one, the foundational core of the Istikhlaf paradigm for civilizational dialogue is our worldview, our values, and the maqasid. Why? Answering the why. The human core, talking about the Khalifa, the attributes, the human being, it's his psychology. Who? Well, the third aspect is the intellectual engine. We talk about the epistemology of civilizational dialogue, the sciences and the methodology that will help us to civilizational dialogue in a complex world where there is a very, very deep paradox in humanity today. On the one hand, we discovered science, technology, AI. We built a great civilization. On the other side, morally, ethically, we are doing some activities and actions that show that we are not even at the level of human beings without generalization. Of course, there are many great people in this world. Number 4, the operational framework of this Istikhlaf approach, the principles, the processes, and the leadership. How do we manage civilizational dialogue? What are the processes to achieve success? How do we make civilizational dialogue really real, really impactful, really making a difference? The social structure, the community, the culture, the governance, the management of all this process of the civilizational dialogue. The applied fields, the application of civilizational dialogue in solving problems of environment, problems of morality, problems of economics, problems of conflicts. All this need to be part of this paradigm, what we call Vicegerent or Istikhlaf-based paradigm. The 7th aspect is the ultimate vision, which is why we are doing dialogue, why we exist, is for Umran, for civilization, for building a desirable life for everybody. That's what the Quran's terms hayatun tayyiba, good, desirable life for everyone as a human. So brothers and sisters, moving forward, there are many things in these slides which I will send to you later on, talking about the application of this vicegerental approach in civilizational dialogue and how it's supposed to solve problems of humanity and problems of people at the global level. So there are many things here, but I'm not going to focus on them because of the sake of time. I'm going to go to another perspective of this presentation here. There are many points here, but I escaped this. So brothers and sisters, I wanted to take you to this. Based on this Istikhlaf or Vicegerent based civilizational dialogue, I tried to develop a kind of index or measure to enhance civilizational dialogue that we have today. Based on this measure, we can guide our civilizational dialogue, whether intra-dialogue among ourselves as Muslims or inter-civilizational dialogue with other people. We wanted to, this is just a preliminary measure that needs a lot of refinement, but I'm just going to show you how this concept of vicegerency and being a vicegerent, being a steward, means you got responsibility towards not your family, not yourself, but towards humanity, towards other people, towards nature, towards universe. You are responsible, we are responsible for all these big environment problems and big issues. It's the human factors that cause environment issues. It's the human factors that cause wars and killing. It's not AI, it's not technology, it is not mathematics. It is us who put the algorithm. It is us who put the models. It's us who put the policies. That's why to be a vicegerent means to be a responsible, to be a person who knows that killing one is killing humanity, a person who knows that causing harm to environment means creating poverty, means killing. All this need to be understood. So brothers and sisters, based on the previous 7 aspects which I put in the model, there are questions here. And these questions are meant to guide us really to build the vicegerential mind that can manage and govern dialogue at the level of individual, level of family, level of government, and level of humanity. And nowadays, especially at the level of humanity, because mankind and humanity is facing very dangerous conflicts and wars that will have dangerous consequences on people everywhere on the planet and on the planet itself. So based on this, I want just to show you some examples. Let's say the core, the foundational core. One of the questions is, do our actions reflect God-centered worldview and aim to achieve the higher objectives? What are the higher objectives? Higher objectives is protecting religion, protecting mind, protecting wealth, protecting children, protecting family, protecting aql, protecting freedom, protecting environment, protecting fitra. Are we doing this in our action? Whether we are individual or family or government or society or humanity. The second question, to what extent our actions are aligning with adl, with compassion, with amana, with mercy, with care, with protecting the environment, with protecting humanity at all these levels. And so on and so forth. I want just to go for the sake of time. The second core question in the human core, are we cultivating the inner self and inner character of a vicegerent who can do civilizational dialogue, who can engage in this dialogue and make impacts? And when we say civilizational dialogue, of course we are dialoguing with others who are different in our religion, in our worldview, in our culture, in our character. Can we reach the level of wisdom, the level of wisdom leadership, where we deal with people, with conflicts, but we see always this vicegerent amana? So here you see some sub items talking about attributes, the active cultivation of virtues like compassion, humility, patience, wisdom, like psychological well-being, like educational commitment, like future orientation. All this is here. I don't want to take. Now, the third aspect of this paradigm or this approach is the operational framework. Are our methods of action ethical, purposeful, and just? Our strategies, our ways of doing dialogue, are they relevant? Are they correct? Are they ethically correct? Or we use all types of cheating, all types of damaging the other side, all types of this? We need to think about this. In number 4, the applied field core, how are we applying this paradigm in tangible, real world context? At these 4 levels. If you read later on, you will find some examples which I give in the dealing with environment, with economics, with family, with conflicts in borders, political conflicts. We see how this vicegerental model and virtues and values and approaches and strategies can help us build a better approach to civilizational dialogue. Even here, I talk about technology stewardship. How this vicegerental model help us guide AI, help us guide technology, which becomes now AI and social media, the source of creating conflicts, then solutions. Social media, AI, and technology become a means and a tool to create more fitna, more conflicts, more problems by using social media and tarnishing the image of people and branding people and doing all this. If you have this vicegerental model and approach, you will refrain from this as individual, family, government, and humanity. So the fifth aspect is, are our actions contributing to a balanced, flourishing human civilization, or our actions are dismantling our relations, our societies, our communities, causing poverty, causing killing, causing. If all these things are happening, so what is the alternative? The alternative is you need to guide humanity and to guide people. Okay, so brothers and sisters, to end this presentation, brothers and sisters, let me summarize in this way. Civilizational dialogue is a human activity. It was there, and it will remain. And we see today in the world, there are many initiatives of civilizational dialogue. The King of Jordan, the King of Saudi Arabia, the Turkish president, the many great leaders had or have introduced many approaches, many initiatives, and humanity, United Nations has adopted all these things to the extent that we have today what we call Dialogue Day or International Dialogue Day to advance and enhance this culture of dialogue. We have also what we call this, what we call the universal or international, the global civilization initiative of China. We have also India initiatives. We have all these great initiatives that are happening and taking place in the world. But even though we have all these things, you notice that still we have more conflicts coming, more problems, more situations, and our humanity today, our earth today, will not be able in the future to support all these conflicts, and we will destroy our existence, our being, our own life if we continue with this type of ideological oriented dialogues which are not really making impact in saving people, in saving earth, in saving humanity, in solving issues of poverty, in solving issues of. So all these initiatives are there. That's why I felt like we really need an approach to dialogue that is based on your inner, on your soul, on your heart, not only on your mind and intelligence and innovation and creativity and all this, but it's really based on you as a human being. When you go back to your fitrah, you go back to your insaniya, you go back to you as a vicegerent. That's why we need a dialogue that is really sincere, that is really real, and builds that culture and mind of dialogue that brings all people together who are very different, but they try. So with this understanding, with this tarbiyah, with this perspective, we can really build new generations of people who can really be able to communicate and solve their problems, solve the problems of humanity. So our civilizational dialogue should be practical, should be actionable, actioning, should not be just rhetoric, should not be just to bring more initiatives, more things, but to do action, even though our actions are small, little, gradual, but we are sure that if we have that kind of sincerity. Based on this, we need to enhance our collaboration, our cooperation at the individual level, institutional level, family level, government level, humanity level, and international level and global levels. So brothers and sisters, with this, I thank you very much for listening, and may God bless you all. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, Professor Abdel, for your thoughtful reflections, specifically on Istikhlaf paradigm in contemporary scenario. Now, Actually, because of some time limitations, I think we couldn't give enough time to the participants for question answer session. But still, we may entertain some questions, and we request Professor Berghout to receive some questions right now. Could we entertain some questions if time allows us?
Please go ahead. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
was waiting for someone to stop me because if I speak, I speak for long.
Sorry, because of time limitations, it's almost 4 already. But still, I think we may entertain a few questions if you would allow us.
Yeah, go ahead.
And presiding of the chair of the session, Professor Mustafa Sirik is with us. May I request? I think Professor Mustafa Sirik, due to some technical problem, he is not with us. So if there is any question from participants, you're welcome. We may entertain some questions.
Professor Mustafa Sirik is with us. He's there. He's very much there.
I'm not able, Prof. I cannot listen. I cannot find here.
But he is there.
May I request Professor Mustafa Sirik?
Doctor, I think there is a question in the chat, correct? I see some sister non-Muslim. Can
Yes,
you just check?
We have some questions. Chat box. Let me.
Dr. Farid, you may read that question.
Can I answer that question?
Yeah, please. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you for the brother or sister non-Muslim who asked the question. I think she or he is asking about this concept of fitra. Fitra, if I understood very well, fitra is human nature, human innate. From the Islamic perspective, or this Vicegerent or Istikhlaf approach, every and each human being, as our Prophet has mentioned, born confirming to human nature, to the original creation in which God has fashioned and has created a human being. But his family, his people, his parents, his culture, later on change his orientation, change his culture, change his way, change his religion. So in the original state of creation, whether you are Muslim or non-Muslim, you are all created in the original state, fitra, nature, which God fashioned. And that nature and that original state of creation includes all your DNA, all your potentials, potential abilities, potential capabilities, like the potential to acknowledge the existence of a creator, the potential to know the common human values, the potential to see what is harmful, what is not harmful. It's all in you as a human being. So that's what we mean by fitra. Fitra is the original state in which each and every human being was created, regardless of his religion later on, or regardless of his orientation later on. Means whether you are Muslim or non-Muslim, in your human fitra, human nature, you got all these potentials. And if we leave you to your nature, to your fitra, you will, by your own nature, acknowledge the existence of a creator, the existence, the importance of good values, the bad values. By your nature, you will know that lying is not correct. By your nature, you will know that injustices are not correct. By your fitra, or human nature, you will know all these things. So that's what I mean by when I say fitra in this context of Vicegerent. For your information, I have with another doctor, Dr. Wan Hidayah. You remember the diagram which I showed in the beginning when I talk about the vicegerent, his heart, his soul, his fitra, all this. We published 2 articles. They are, if you Google, you will find them. And shortly, I'm having another article will be published in Japan on this concept of human nature.
Thank you so much for a comprehensive answer to the question. So may we entertain one more question before closing the session? Any question from the audience? Any question from the participants? Okay, Prof, I think we don't have any question right now.
Okay, okay.
Thank you. Today's wonderful and thoughtful reflections on the Istikhlaf paradigm. Now, may I request Professor Mustafa Sirik if he could join us. Unfortunately, because of some technical issues with his mic, he cannot unmute. Professor Mustafa Sirik is with us, but we are not audible to him. Sorry for that. Okay, I think I would like to request Professor Hamidullah Marazi Sahab to give a vote of thanks to our esteemed participants and the guest speakers. Okay, then we will close the session, inshallah.
Thank you very much, Brother Dr. Fareed Malik. We are extremely thankful to Professor Aziz Berghout for sparing his valuable time and delivering such a stimulating and thought-provoking lecture on the Istikhlaf paradigm of dialogue. And that was a new paradigm and which is needed in modern times. And he gave a universal and global application of this paradigm, which is not limited to any particular religion. Rather, it is applicable to all humans of the world. And this is needed paradigm in this trouble-torn world, while all the nations are fighting each other nations, as has been said by, Hobbes, war of all against all. So this paradigm is negating this type of paradigm. And we are also very thankful to Professor Mustafa Sirik, who had accepted our invitation to be our president today. But because of some connectivity issues, he is not able to, articulate and he is not able to speak. And we are not able to listen to him. So it was very unfortunate for us that we could not listen to his words of wisdom. He's a great scholar and he's a great, patron. And his words of wisdom would have enhanced the value of today's program. But still, we are very thankful to him for accepting our invitation. We are also very thankful to Professor Abdel, Professor Sister Reni Kim from South Korea, and Mr. Atif, Mr. Kamal Baboli, Fazil Ayaz, and so many other friends, Karza Batna, and Sarah Yaqoof, and Tahir Gul, and Omara, and Zahin Shai, and Romana Rashid, Ansar Nasir, and many others who have joined this program. And in this way, they have just benefited from these deliberations. We are very thankful to all other people who have helped us in different ways, and they have been always supporting us in whatever way we are just asking them. So in this way, this program has enhanced the value of dialogue, inter-civilizational dialogue. And inshallah, we'll be continuing with this effort in future as well. I am also thankful to Brother Fareed Malik and Brother Farooq Ashai for their presence and for their support. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you so much for those kind words, Professor Marazi Sahab. And thank you all esteemed guests, speakers, and esteemed participants for joining us today. Alhamdulillah. It was a wonderful session, and specifically in terms of the Istikhlaf paradigm, Istikhlaf-based paradigm in contemporary civilizational dialogue. So as we conclude today's program, I would like to express my sincere gratitude once again to our keynote speaker, Professor Abdel Aziz Berghout, our presiding speaker, Professor Mustafa Sarek, even though we couldn't have him today, but inshallah, we will be having one more session with him, inshallah, and all the participants who joined and contributed to this meaningful dialogue. So we hope this session has enriched your understanding on civilizational dialogue and its relevance in the contemporary world. So on behalf of Hamas Civilizational Dialogue and Harmony Foundation, before concluding the session, I once again thank you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much.
It was very, very, very
Thank you.
for us. And we have given the perspective of movement things.
Thank you very much.